That works. I just know your technology, thank goodness.
And yes, I am recording this on Zoom.
All right, we're gonna get started. I'm sure some other people are gonna have to flow in here. Worst case scenario, if it gets really crazy, we might have to stop and pull out some more chairs to accommodate. So FYI, thanks everyone for coming. Most appreciated. Number one, I think it might be important to note that all the handouts that we had yesterday, that we did try to pass out what we have left today, are now physically gone, but I did create a QR code, if anybody wants to scan this. that will link directly on their phone to the PDF that you can look at while we go through the material. It also was online today, this morning, via Google Docs and Dropbox. So let me know if you need to access everything. Because of the explosive kind of response that has happened over the last 24 hours, I thought, you know, it might be wise for us to have some conditions or things that we agree upon tonight of how this meeting is going to go. So is there any objections of us having a quick discussion about meeting decorum?
Sounds good.
Okay, great. I'm gonna let the expert talk about that, our wonderful help doing our Zoom meeting tonight. And hey, everyone on Zoom.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Ray Farrelly. I'm on the board of CCCIA. I'm a professor at CU Boulder, and I have no horse in this race. I haven't even read the documents. I don't know what's happening. I'm learning right alongside all of you. But I did not like some of the hostility I saw on Facebook, so I offered to offer some tech support and then also talk about what normally would be community agreements where we would all decide on these together. Instead, I'm just kind of offering some facilitator requests. So first of all, leading with kindness. There's a lot of emotion around this topic. I get it. I've seen it on Facebook, but you know, we're here to listen to Veronica and see what the ideas are. So when you speak, just be kind. We don't have to attack one another. We're neighbors in a small community, so we want to kind of stay friends. Practice active, respectful, and empathetic listening. So kind of just listening when people are talking as opposed to thinking about what you want to say or chatting with a neighbor about what you don't agree with already. Challenge ideas, not people. So let's make it be about the ideas and not coming at someone based on their character or past interactions that you may have had with somebody. Take space means please speak up if you have something to say. Don't be shy, raise your hand. Make space means if you're constantly talking, I tell my students at CU, try 3, then me. I talk, and then I'll wait for at least 3 other people to talk before I go again. Use I statements. So again, I'm curious about this. I think what you're saying, I'm not sure I agree, but try not to attack folks for their talk, what they have to say. Only one person speaks at a time. Be honest with ourselves and others. So if you have facts, bring the facts. If you don't, maybe hold off on sharing things. And then trust intent, which means don't, you know, assume the positive in everybody. Assume that nobody
Turn
is.
up your volume.
Okay, it's actually as high as it can be. Can you hear me?
And stand closer.
Please and thank you. You're welcome. Trust intent, again, is just to assume the best intentions. No one's here to start a war or hurt each other. And then name impact. If something someone says does hurt you, I heard there was a racial slur last night, go ahead and name it because we should be calling out when things are said that are inappropriate. And then accept that things may remain unresolved. So this isn't going to be a pretty bow at the end of the night. This is just an information session. Veronica just wants to share why she even had this idea in the first place. Does anyone want to add anything or amend anything?
Okay, great. Well, this is how we're gonna deal with tonight. And with anyone who's out of line, you'll have one warning and then if you do it again, you'll be asked to leave. So, where are we gonna start? Last night I had an agenda, that is not gonna work for tonight. So I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. And one of the first things I would like to address is this, which I don't think you have that on your screen, which is fine. This was the first thing I saw this morning, and I would like to address this first. Okay, and there is only one thing on there that is the truth. So I want to address this right now, that this is irresponsible fear mongering without any factual data whatsoever and created chaos. Like there was already fire burning and fuel was dumped on it this morning. So I'm going to read this. I don't know if everyone has seen this. Calling all CC property owners. Prevent township. Talk of incorporation of Coal Creek Canyon. Intimate, I said that wrong, domain. Thank you. Liens on your property and a raise in property taxes. The true part about this, the only one factual thing. Attend meeting CCIA Hall, Sunday, August 4th at 5:30. And then it says, join the fight to keep CC rule, join the committee, spelled wrong, which is amazing. I even saw that because I'm the worst spell checker ever. First of all, this is very un-American. Last time I checked, we are in the US and we have a freedom of speech. So to try to actually prevent someone having a discussion is really extreme and extremely irresponsible. The rest of it is just nonsense and I won't even address it further. So,
I was
yes,
gonna say, I agree, let's just move on from that.
we're definitely moving on, but I did want to nip that in the bud real quick because that caused a lot of dissension today and a flurry of misinformation and other false facts and statements that were not made or misrepresented last night. So thank you. I needed to address that first. Last night, as I said, I had an agenda that is not going to work tonight. So I'm going to just mix it up a bit, but we are going to go through handouts. So I prepared this documentation last night. I only made so many prints. I know not everyone got it. I did make it available on Google Doc link as well as the Dropbox links today. It will be available in the future. And I also have this QR code in case anybody wants to watch and see it right now. And I'm also happy to send a digital file after this. So I want to go through what is in this. We're not gonna get into detail too much because I think we need to get some questions and do some clarification. And hopefully end up in a very positive result tonight. So let's go through the documentation. So on the first page, and this is research, this is from the information that was provided to me that I went through and spent a lot of time going through from the past efforts in 1997, 1998. And I came across a bunch of cool stuff. And I thought I would share some of that with you. Because that's what I thought might be important to start off, see where the first group started. So there used to be this cool publication called The Leaflet. And I included 2 pages from back in the day that talked about the Incorporation research project, as well as a survey that the CCIA did. It was a telephone-based survey consisting of 175 participants on telephone. And in the next 3 pages of that document, in that booklet or of the handouts, which you should also be able to see online, you can scroll through like 1, 2, and 3. So we're not really gonna dive into it tonight. This is fun information. I thought we could kind of go over more in detail.
Could you do me a favor, please, and move the mic closer to the speaker?
If I move the mic closer, you won't see the speaker, so I can turn off the camera and just put the computer beside her if you'd prefer.
No, I please don't turn off the camera. It's well worth it.
Okay. I guess speak loudly.
Okay, I can do that. So on page number 3, if you have a physical version, hopefully it's right, page number 3, it also is what's showing on the screen, hopefully also on the Zoom, you can see it. And any document that you printed out today on the Google link or on the Dropbox link. And this is one thing I will point out, it was the result. So before half the page, there's advertisements, and I'm referencing the one section right above where it stops with all the text. And it says the second issue is the possibility of incorporating Coal Creek Canyon as a city or town. And they asked, would you be in favor of the CCIA investigating the pros and cons of Coal Creek Canyon incorporating into a town or a city? At that time, there was 139 yeses, 24 no's, 2 maybes, and 8 they didn't know. So that was a survey that was done back in the day when this issue and this whole research topic started. You guys can read more about that. Moving on to page. Sure.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
Out of the 175 that were surveyed, any idea of how many of those people are still here?
You know, I didn't have to see that in the records, like the names, because the research committee was separate technically from the CCIA board. Although there was collaboration going on at the time, because I did notice that there was a lot more community kind of based activities happening in the hall. And with CCIA then, versus now, kind of as a comparison. So I didn't see those results.
So we have no idea how many of those people are still even here.
No,
I still cannot hear you. You're just garbled, so either come closer to the mic to speak. Thank you.
do you have your microphone turned all the way on?
I have my microphone completely on. I do this every day for a living.
Okay, can you hear me better from right here?
Yeah, you're coming through loud and clear.
Okay. Okay, so back to your question.
I think you
Uh,
answered it, but-
Yeah, I didn't see that, and I believe it was it was members from CCIA, as from what I understood at that time. So page 4 in your handout or whatever, on the screen as well, was another way that they try to get feedback from the community regarding certain topics, and this was one of them, the Incorporation Research Committee. Now, just to quickly backtrack at that time, the reason why that was important for this discussion to be had, from as what I gathered, was mostly spurred due to Arvada's annexation of what is Canyon Falls. Canyon, yeah, sorry, it keeps falling in, I thought it was. So yeah, Canyon Pines, so that's kind of where this started. But that's another example of kind of the efforts that they made. I thought that was interesting and pretty cool. So wish we had more time to go into that, but you guys can look at that later. Now, moving on to page 5, what is also on the screen. This was a document, once again, in the research papers that was actually presented to the public from the research committee throughout their different meetings they had, not just independently with the committees and the subcommittees, but also for the public. So this is a pro and cons handout that they provided everybody. I'm happy to go through it, or we can read it later. You guys can read it independently, but I can tell you one of the top pros consistently in statements made throughout the committee members' discussions back then is more control over services and just more control overall and the protection of our wonderful life up here. And they also discussed some cons, but again, you can go over that later. Moving on to page 6, which is titled Shoal Creek Canyon Incorporation Research Results. This is a copy of what they presented in a meeting publicly at the CCIA Hall on October 1st, 1997 at 7 p.m. We're not going to get into this, but I thought this might be interesting because it helps break down sections that they ended up having subcommittees on. They started from scratch. They had no idea how this worked. They didn't understand legal, statutory requirements. So they started brand new. They took on an amazing effort. I have the most respect for what they did and how they dove into something really, really significant. But in the end, what they did, they created multiple subcommittees. One subcommittee looked at boundaries. One subcommittee looked at legal and safety. One looked at petitions, because petitioning is part of the process of incorporation. They also looked at road and bridges. Accounting was another subgroup, and town name and organization. So that's fun to read over if you have nothing else to do. Okay, so moving on to page 7. This is a revised copy, revised on April 1998 from, again, the research group, discussing more potential benefits and possible negative impacts. Probably don't need to get all into that. I did attempt to do that last night, didn't work out very well, so we can get in depth, maybe another meeting about it if we get to that place at some point, or you guys are welcome to spend time on it as well. But it is really good information. Page 8 that I included is from a gentleman named Mike. Mike was on the committee and he lived up here. I'm not sure if he still does. I actually haven't spoken to him. But I thought it was important to read his letter, and in there you'll notice also his concerns or questions about control over housing density, control over what city people from imposing urban life on the mountain people, control of natural looking areas, control by pressuring forest services to do stuff, and control that will provide organization ready to prevent coring of scar top that could deplete our canyon water supply. So not sure what Scar Top was. Maybe some people do know what that was. Oh, okay, so something was happening at that point that was relevant to him and he listed in here. I thought that was some fun reading. And awesome that he put that work and came to that conclusion and have those questions. The next one is that there's a number of these, but I just threw in ones that I thought were relevant or specific that had something to say. So I did talk to this gentleman, Joel.
What page is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 9. And it's from Joel Hosepet. What is it? Chopek. So he's an awesome guy in my opinion. He basically in this, he concluded that it's not feasible because of the road and bridges. He was part of that subcommittee. He went and figured out numbers and had discussions and all the details that are required with roads and bridges, specifically with Jefferson County mostly, but also the other Boulder County and Gilpin County. And so his concern was it wasn't feasible at that time because operation costs were so high. So that's a good one to read, but this is my favorite section of his letter is the last sentence where he said, on a whole, it was an interesting endeavor and I actually enjoyed doing the research for what I thought was a worthwhile cause. So I agree with him, it was, and he did a great job. Moving on to pages. Now I included some emails in here too, because there's some fun details and interesting conversations that were had. Not going to get into really any of them. I've included this for you guys to read, because a lot of things that are being said now are also discussions that were happening then. And as they determined that and questions as they went down the road, it's in here. So there's a lady named Mia, which I've never met. She used to be the president of CCIA, from what I understand. And this is the next 2 pages, pages 10 and 11 are from Mia regarding topics about the Incorporation Committee, town organization name, etc. I found all that fascinating. You might think it's completely stupid and redundant, but it was a fun adventure for me. So hopefully you can find some good stuff in there, little treasures here and there. Moving on to page 12 and 13, oddly how this was scanned in, it came out a little funky, but pages 12, 13, 14, and 15 through 16, it actually is one of the incorporation meeting notes that they did. They were very organized. It's impressive. So I thought that would be fun. One of the things I did learn in here was that Jefferson County back in 1998, through various conversations they were having, made it very clear that they were already having budget issues. So I found that surprising because I didn't know it went all the way back to then, where they were already having budget issues, having a hard time manage things up here, which seemed to be well recognized at that time. So that's good reading. Please make some effort and read that when you get a chance. Moving on to page 17. Let me just get this on the screen. This is just another example of what the committee did to do what they were looking for is a potential survey to be done by the community, work with the community to see how much the community would be willing to pay for incorporation. Not so far sure how far they got on that, but basically the conclusion I see on this document is it was an average of $360 a year among committee members at that time from just them surveying themselves of how much they would be willing to pay per family to help incorporate. So I thought that was interesting and fun and possibly another idea that could be utilized and perhaps just a bit updated. All right, moving on to page 18. Hopefully these are in order because I think I may have messed these a tiny bit up.
They're not.
Okay, so sorry. So you should, this page 18 or what should be, what we're on now is expenses. It's the Coal Creek Canyon Incorporation Research Project budget. This is pretty much where the meeting ended last night. It went somewhat downhill. So we're not going to go over how they broke this down. It is pretty fascinating. I know that these numbers, for example, law enforcement at $100,000 isn't realistic. I think that's just common sense because something in 1998 is not going to be the same price it's going to be in 2024. So, you know, paid staff, legal, I chuckle because in one of the breakdowns, they had a part-time judge, for $5,000 a year. That was hilarious. So, they have two budgets on here. They have a full budget they came up with after a ton of work, tons and tons of work. And then they have a slash and burn budget. So very interesting information to go into.
What are the numbers? Total numbers.
So the annual budget they had come up with just for the full budget was 1,027,000.
And that's almost 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then their slash and burn budget was like a little bit under 800,000. And then on the second, well, page 19, hopefully, we have a copy of their income. Now, this was the summary after 6 months of work, of the budget of where the town would get money from. Okay, I think it's actually really important because it actually shows the potential monies that they already saw that could come into a town, such as cigarette sales, like taxes, motor vehicle monies that would come back to a town, road and bridge monies that would come back to a town. So they have their slash and burn income and they have their full budget. So very interesting to look at that. Unfortunately, the ultimate conclusion of well, it wasn't unfortunate. I think that's the wrong word to use. I think the responsible conclusion was because they were fact finders. That was their job and their role as a fact find. And they came back and they told the community the summary and their conclusion. And the conclusion was, we did a lot of great work. We had a great time. We learned a lot. We think this is a potentially good idea, but unfortunately it's not going to work unless we raise property taxes, which clearly was a no-go and no one wanted that at that point and no one wants that now. So that's why it didn't move forward. They did give some allocation and suggestions of maybe why it can be re-explored in the future, you know, through a few ideas in there. So that was the conclusion. So on page 20 and 21, you will see two maps. These are copies of two maps that they created, boundary lines. So in order to get a lot of numbers and data that are required, well, that they needed or are just required in general as part of the process for incorporation, you have to have a map or a boundary area of the geographic that the municipality would be in. So they had two maps that they had concluded and gained data and based it off of. I cannot break down this map in full. I've had other people look at it before tonight who are much more familiar with the canyon. So hopefully you guys understand it better than me. But that I'm giving you this as a copy, an example. This is not a suggestion. This is not what I'm pushing for. This is just simply an example of what their research committee had come up with. And I'm providing you to look at it. So we're not gonna get into any more of the documentation. We're gonna get into some of the biggest questions, like one of the core questions that keeps getting asked. So these are just some updated benefits I came up with through various discussions. It also quotes their benefits, and simply it's just an idea. There's probably other benefits, but let's go over them. So number one benefit, gain more control over issues and decisions that affect us. That was from the original committee and the community that worked on that before. And I agree with that, and that's why I included it number one. Number two, preserve the simple rural nature of our community. Definitely a benefit. Our future taxes, services, and more will be decided by people here who are more aware of the experience with our mountain living needs and lifestyle. Again, a quote from the past committee and their goals, which I think we would all at least agree in general consensus about. Number four, save school via annexation into town. So save may not have been the right word. Maybe there's a better word I could have used. What I intended to try to get at was a more permanent solution with the property of the school. So there was not going to be any, so it would be a more solid solution in the long term versus what recently has happened with losing the school to Jeffco, or at least them closing it, and then the effort the parents went through, which was awesome. So annexation in the town, I think that is important to address really quick, because the word eminent domain continue to get thrown around today, and people were saying that I actually said that yesterday, and that I just said, we're just gonna take it. That, first of all, that was never said by me. Second, I feel like terminology is important, so we can all be on the same page here. Eminent domain is only something the federal government can do, or a state government. A municipality or a county cannot do that.
Wrong. That's
And
local
it's-
government.
Excuse me. And so annexation is something that is an authority for a municipality to do under specific state statute. So I'm not gonna have a debate over that. What I'm saying,
You're incorrect. If we have town boundaries, there's nothing to annex. In town, the annexation is taking county land and bringing it into the city.
I'm so
you
sorry,
have
what's
a
your
map that
name
would
again? I'm so
exclude
sorry, what's your name again? Forgive me, you interrupted, what's your name again? Cindy, can you stand up just so we can hear you from the Zoom and everything?
So
you.
annexation is incorrect. Annexation is the process by which a city takes county land and incorporates it into the city.
Correct.
There would not be a defined territory that's our town that carves out the school and then somehow we annex the school land. The school land would be part of the town. So annexation is the incorrect term,
Thank you so much.
and it has nothing to do with saving the school.
Thank you so much for your comment, Cindy. I'm not claiming to know everything. I can only give you definitions that I've read and that are in legal statutory state law in our Colorado revised statute that I did not write. But I did diligent research. I think it's like 700 some pages. It's very expensive. So that was a possible benefit. The school actually could become a town-owned property. We could help fund the school, and we can actually create revenue out of that school. We can actually have an awesome, we already have an awesome school, but it could even be more awesome. And without the oversight or having to keep asking Jefferson County or having an uncertain future with that. I'm not diminishing anybody's efforts or what's currently going on now. But I saw that as a benefit to the school because I would love my grandson to go to school here instead of the city as well. Number 5, create jobs. So this goes into many different directions of creating jobs. Obviously, jobs would have to be created. If we became our own municipality, we'd have to have our own, town hall. We'd have to have some government things we would take over from the counties, police, a treasurer, administrative activities, some legal activities, etc. So that would create jobs, no question. But the other jobs that we could create is more every time it's overheating. So bizarre. So regarding jobs would be, in my opinion, through various discussions I've had, is to incentivize our fire department volunteers, because we have like the best fire department, in my opinion, ever. And I love our fire chief and his family are so great, but there's only 2 paid positions with our fire department district. There's 4 fire departments, but there's only 2 paid positions, and everybody else are volunteers. So it would be nice to incentivize or offer job opportunities for one of our most probably critical services up here. And be able to actually offer employment, real jobs and benefits, etc., on top of the volunteer firefighters. So that was where the job creation idea
Do
came
you
from.
see any jobs other than government jobs?
I actually do. I do.
Where?
Well, we're gonna get to questions. That's why I'm trying to rush through this, but if we could just get through this and then there's gonna be plenty of time for questions, I promise. Okay, so number 6. Another benefit would create new revenue streams, because obviously property taxes would not be an option, at least in my opinion. I would never support something like that. And I cannot. I have a commercial property in unincorporated Jefferson County. Commercial property is assessed at extremely high value, way different value than a residential is. So I know there's been a lot of talk about some benefit for me and tax purposes. That's not correct. I pay a much, much higher tax rate than residential for commercial property. But we could create new revenue streams to fund our town. And we'll get to that in the next page. At least one idea, not all of the ideas, just one. Number 7, we could have more control overall and representation for our community. Number 8, we can create a CCC downtown development plan. like a grocery store, community gardens with year-round food production. Town events would bring revenue. Tools and heavy equipment rental versus going to town and getting it from Home Depot, which I've done many, many times. Trash and water delivery service, etc. So those could be some potential benefits as a town. Number 9, we could also have more access to federal funding, especially under USDA. I'm not going to get into details about that. I tried last night, didn't work, but I'm happy to discuss it more down the road, but it would give us more access to USDA grants, which is a lot of money every year, with what they offer. Number 10, we could further support and expand CCC Park and Rec's goals, vision, and budgets and efforts. So one thing you will read in the handouts I gave you from the past research committee, they talked about funding parks and recs. So I guess it didn't exist back then, but now it does. And part of the benefit to the community is obviously park and recs. Park and Recs doesn't have a park, and we don't have a rec center. But we could definitely help as a municipality or a town expand the visions, which does benefit the community under park and recs. And kudos.
Hey, Veronica, just to chime in, it's Rachel here. Just because we haven't talked about Parks and Rec being part of the list of things in there directly as president of the Parks and Rec, let's just make sure we discuss that and have an alignment on that, since the funding aspects, things like that, the board from Parks and Rec is very invested in and has been in this community for a very long time. So I just want to make sure that we're clear that we have not had a discussion about this. You know, I have a lot of interest in this for the community in a lot of ways, but just want to be clear that Parks and Rec didn't ask you to put any of this information in there.
That's correct. They did not ask me at any point to put that in there. There's not been secret meetings having on the side or anything. I know some people think there's conspiracies happening. There's not. I would like to say, Rachel, I did think about, possibly asking, depending on where things go today, I think it'd be awesome for you to, come talk about Park and Recs, because I'm not qualified to do that. And what the visions look like for you guys and et cetera. Just
Yeah, I think that's a separate conversation to be had, and we have to have that as a board meeting too, to see how we would address that. We do have open meetings for our board each month that the public is welcome to come to, and we can discuss any historical pieces related to that. I just wanted to kind of put a period at least on funding related to Parks and Rec specifically, since we have not discussed that being part of this agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no agenda. This is simply just talking about potential benefits. But thank you for your comment. I appreciate you very much. Number 12, expanding our existing emergency responder resource and services. This can be many things. I did say last night that I won't think a helicopter would be cool. Not everyone liked that idea, but
They already landed. They already got a pass-through that's kept locked gate just for the life support. So
yeah, but
it's right down the road from my house. It's been there for years. It'll always be there.
awesome.
The landowners have given it, not given the land, but given the permission to use it forever. So
Awesome. Well, I think having our own fire department, emergency responder, helicopter would be epic. That's just my own personal opinion. I have no idea what that costs, but it was just an idea.
You skipped 11, can you go over your details?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. 11, divert existing CCC residents and business dollars from 3 different counties in our town fund. Example, permits, licensing, etc. So what does that mean? That means Coal Creek Canyon right now is compromised of 3 overlapping counties: Jefferson, Gilpin, Boulder. You guys all know that. Our monies here are spent elsewhere on permits, building permits, zoning permits, septic permits, well permits. Well, that's with the state. Well, also with the county. Your vehicle registrations, your groceries, etc. So all that monies, anyone who has Airbnbs or second lodgings, you guys are paying to wherever county you're in, you're paying their licensing or their permit fee for that. You're doing whatever electrical work or electrical permits, etc. through the county. So all that money because I'm spending it too, are going to counties instead of in our own town.
But couldn't the same thing be said about other parts of those counties sending money to Coal Creek Canyon?
They don't send any money to us that I'm aware of.
Oh, I'm sure the county don't isolate Coal Creek Canyon, say they don't get any of our general fund money.
We're in their budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're budgeted for in those counties.
Correct.
So what it sounds from what your statement was, is that they're sucking money out of Coal Creek County and we're not getting any of it back.
That's not exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are certain things that the counties provide services to us up here specifically, right? That's in their
Roads
budget.
and
Bridges.
and maintenance.
Flowers.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And then there's things, like the permits and the licensing inspections and stuff like that. That
At
is,
the rec center in Gilpin County that I could go utilize.
yeah, I mean, that's different.
Yeah.
But the licensing and permitting and all that, that's just government jobs. That's all those are.
Well, and that's not
And
really,
you have to build a building to have all this. It sounds like you want a town up here.
well, that's the whole conversation is about.
Yeah, nobody wants a town. That's why
Well,
we live up here.
let's get through that and then we're gonna get all these questions, cause I understand, I hear you 100%. So back to that, what your question was, is that we have outside, we're spending our money outside of Coal Creek Canyon on a lot of stuff, and that those things could come to us under an incorporation, where that money is then going back into our own town fund, or becomes a sales base for us, a tax base for us is the correct term, a tax base. Okay, yes, go ahead.
But how much taxes are we gonna spend on having our own police department, our own supporting all these other, the town council? Like,
I can't answer that. That would be the goal of the research group, is to be fact finders. And that's some of the data that they would have to come to find out. What does that today cost look like?
You can just go by cost of living by that. I mean, it's a minimum of 5 to 6 times, so $3,000 minimum. That's
wait,
minimum. It's
per
more
what?
likely 10 times their original number, so
Wait,
6,000 per household.
oh, I see.
Well, so that's not correct, just FYI, at least just from the due diligence. Can I,
But that's a rough guesstimation.
and I'm just gonna give you a little just piece of what I found doing some due diligence before this meeting, because I've been working on this for months. Is that I did contact Road and Bridges, because part of their documentation showed the request that they were doing from the different government bodies to try to get this information that everyone is asking, or that they actually found out back then. So I decided to replicate the same thing. So I did core requests exactly worded the same way they worded it, just with different words, and found the right person to go to. And I ended up talking to Road and Bridges. And shockingly, well, there's a lot to talk about that, but their budget didn't go up 10%. In fact,
The little mini flood 2 years ago that wiped the road out would bankrupt the town. What do you think the flood that I wasn't here for, that 8, 9 years ago,
That was terrible.
would have wiped the town out completely financially? This is not feasible.
I can't say that whether or not, but if we could just finish up and then we can get to the next thing, and then we can get to questions. We're almost there, I promise. Okay, so I think I got to 11, sorry for skipping that, and 13, which is our last one. I don't believe I talked about that. And it says a possible community benefit would be to help support and grow the existing businesses in CCC, both brick and mortar and home-based businesses like Airbnbs, etc. Because obviously we don't have a bunch of commercial properties and a lot of physical brick and mortar businesses here, but there's a lot of people who have their own businesses up here, including Airbnb. So we can help expand and grow that as one of the benefits.
Can we have everybody keep the discussions on the side down, please, so we can hear? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so we can discuss this because I'm sure there's stuff to discuss, but let's move on to the last two, I believe, pages. Okay. So recently, in 2022 or 2023, I forget which one it was, the state did some legislation in regards to traffic cams. And the town of Morrison, this is an article from the town of Morrison, and recently they had put some in, and their result in 2 weeks at $40 a ticket was $400,000. Traffic cams and the permission to use them, and I don't even know if they existed back in 1998, but they do now. So that is a possible revenue source. I'm not saying, as you can see in this article, a lot of the response, well, one of the responses from the community was they didn't think they'd collect all that money, and that's probably true. But that's quite a bit of money
You
in
have
2
to pay
weeks.
someone to sit in that car.
No, it's traffic cams.
Okay.
So there's no
Pay for a
person.
Court, municipality, you have to pay for a court building, for them to go to court in.
So the ticket actually could be by mail, like it is now. That's how they actually implement it already. Especially with out of town people, especially in high tourist area, which Morrison is. In addition to that, we have Mountain Broadband up here, who's our main internet provider. And they could implement this for us, which would be awesome. But there's a lot of questions about that, but I threw that in just so you can see that there is new financial resources and revenue that could be potentially discussed in the research committee. Hold on.
Oh, discussed in the research. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if there was an idea of what roads we place that on, because I know there was a discussion that Highway 72 isn't feasible.
Yeah, that comment was made last night. That was inaccurate, but I'm not here to address inaccuracies or facts until I actually had a physical proof, like if I had it on the screen to prove that otherwise, because I wasn't prepared to even hear that last night. So I'm not really trying to get into that, but that would be something the feasibility committee could definitely get into.
State highway.
But there is,
State highway.
that's true, but I can tell you right now that the city of Boulder also has traffic cams off Highway 36 within the city of Boulder, which also is a state highway. So just an example, but I really don't want to get too much into that just because I don't have physical data to back who and where and what. I can tell you that there have been I've had discussions about this over the last year, probably by now. And there has been some suggestions of where they could go and what they should be, but that's not really relevant for tonight. That's more a part of what the committee would do and then come present it to the rest of everybody at some point.
Wouldn't we need a building to conduct business that we have to pay for?
We definitely need a city hall. Yes. Does that mean that we have to build a building? No. Does that mean that we might be able to utilize something existing? Yes. Does that mean that we maybe build something down the road as part of the downtown vision? Maybe. We're not really there yet. I don't even have an idea of what that would be part of the committee, the feasibility committee, part of this, maybe a subgroup to discuss what the financial needs would be for City Hall and the city employees versus elected officials and any volunteer work. So I'm sorry, I don't have that. I don't have that answer. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My name is Denise, I'm a 20-year resident up here, lived up here forever. This is the first I've heard of it, so this is my first meeting. What I'm hearing you say is that you are bringing this back to life from the 17-year-old information, surveys, etc. And I haven't heard you use any word except I have put this information. Has there been more than I that has?
Whose idea is this? First of all, that answers a lot of questions.
Thank you.
Well, okay, we'll get to that, but can I just finish this really quick? And then,
Sure.
no, it's not your fault, it's mine. I'm trying not to go down and get off track, but I almost just did. So this is an interesting article to read. I did include that. And then the second to last one on page 25, 26 pages, is the coolest thing I found. I know maybe not everyone's gonna like this. I love this. So there's this cool guy named.
Please answer the gentleman's question. Everyone wants to know.
And so
Everyone deserves to know why this is being brought up. Answer it, please. Now, don't slough it off. Why?
So out of respect, let me just. finish.
No, out of respect to every community member, you must answer the question.
I include it because as a resident here knew, I didn't know where anything was. And whoever the clutch right, cool guy. So that was found in my research. I thought was kind of fun. Now the last slide, and then we'll get to all the questions. It's just for your review. I just put a simplified process of incorporation, step 1, 2, and that was it. So you guys can review that at some later time. That was just information. So let's get to the questions.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
first off, I think everybody in this room would like to know who you are and where you came from.
Okay, my name.
Please, I'm Stanley Bugle, I'm a 40+ year resident of Oak Creek County.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I would like to know, can you go slow, high, low, everything else? Introduce yourself.
Yes. My name is Veronica Carpio. I am new to Cold Creek Canyon. My husband and I moved here like a little bit over 2 years ago now, and we love it. It's the best place, and we are blessed. And is there any other details? Like we run the restaurant Babuza's. It's named after my grandson. He's only 3 years old. Everyone.
So
knows
you're a
about
business owner, correct?
Yes, we have multiple businesses.
Now, my next question, I think everybody in this room would like to know,
Sure.
why are you using information that's over 20-some years old for your research?
So I'm not using any information. What I'm doing is
Well,
providing.
you provided it to us on leaflet.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
So I thought that it would be fun information to share, because as I dove into what the documentation that was left behind from the past research committee, I thought it was amazing. I went on an amazing journey when I started digging down, learning about what they had past done. And ultimately, I thought it would be a fun opportunity for all of us to get together and maybe revisit what they had attempted to do. I just studied what they did.
I know you studied what they did. Your costs, of course, are way out of line with 2024 as far as
Of course.
what it would cost to do something like this.
So these are not my
You-
costs.
Oh,
just
I know, but you're.
What you're
and
presenting.
What would be
is
your
a low number.
presentation of who is gonna pay for what and where?
I'm not presenting that at all, sir.
Well,
What I was doing is just showing you.
if you're
that
new in
each-
township, somebody's gotta pay for it.
Absolutely, and that's the goal, to do, find out that through the research committee, a new one to form it.
Now, who will be on your research committee or who will form this?
Whoever wants to volunteer, I was just thinking it could be a fun
I'll tell you
community
a little story.
project.
When we had the 2013 flood up here, we had a group come in here to try and reorganize everything up and down this canyon,
Uh-oh.
and they failed us. There was a lot of money spent that we didn't see. A lot of people were in a lot of situations that they didn't want to be in because all of a sudden their property is destroyed by God's flood
Yes, sir.
at the time. And they had to put out a lot of extra money that they didn't want to because of an independent engineering study to come up here and do this. I didn't like it. I wasn't involved, but I was involved to a certain extent. I knew people that were in the SHIT. To put it bluntly. If you involve other government from another area or so-called research study or a group that comes from out a source into this canyon and starts messing with people's lives, you're gonna be in trouble.
That's not,
Your committee is- your
can I
committee
stop?
is-
Hold on, because
No,
you're
your
going, you're,
committee is,
I
know.
respect what you're saying, but you're going down a rabbit hole, and I just
know.
want to clarify before we go any deeper with that, is that that's not what at all is being suggested or proposed.
I know.
I,
But-
hold on. They were a community, this was a community effort back then, and I just thought it would be fun to do a community effort now.
So
That's
this
it,
is
not
your-
outsiders.
But,
You have to clarify that this is your idea.
Members of the
Sure.
CCIA,
Okay.
I have no idea.
what? And what's, why many members do we have in the
Leave this.
CCIA?
I was inspired by what they had done,
So
and I
what
saw that
benefit did you think we would get? I'm asking because my neighbor can't be here. and
what
he really-
benefit did I think I can get?
Yeah, or anyone, like, why did you wanna do this, basically?
Well, I wasn't looking at my
What's your
benefits.
motivation? I'm sorry?
My motivation?
Yeah.
Well, my motivation first was to have some fun discussions with the community and do a committee. Because that's what they did, and it was fun, and it was a whole
So you
thing.
don't really wanna go forward with this, like incorporate?
No, she does.
So that's a whole, I think I'm totally, at this point, I don't have enough data to say if I'm pro corporation or not. I would be pro if there was no property tax increase and the town could financially sustain itself. But those are all discussions to be had.
Oh, so this is just like a fun.
We don't-
Yeah, a fun research project, exactly, to see if it would benefit our community. Absolutely.
Okay.
I thought I had a great time, so I learned a lot, even if it's.
We are not here to have fun.
Oh, we're not.
This is a serious discussion.
This is,
And I would
yeah,
like
this-
to make a discussion.
Like, so this is a waste of time essentially.
The town of Cold Creek Canyon?
It would be the city,
I don't know.
because we need a city council, right?
Yeah, you would need a
So
city
it'd be the
council.
city of Cold Creek
need
Canyon.
I guess, yeah, it's not, those are not decisions that I would make. I don't make any of those decisions.
But where does it come, like?
I don't know, those are not, those are all future things that I cannot answer. Because the committee would do those answers and then provide a summary to the community, and then everyone would decide the next steps.
So it wouldn't be the city, would it be different counties?
No.
It'd be like Cold Creek Canyon City, but all these different counties?
The county doesn't change just because you incorporate into your own municipality. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hi, I made it my turn.
It would be so nice if we could just have some respect for people speaking right now. Thank you so much.
And I'm kind of soft spoken, so I just want to make sure that people online can hear me. Can you hear me online?
Can you guys hear her online?
Yep, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Yes.
Hey, and I'd like to be able to ask my full question before I'm interrupted. Can I agree to the norms, so can I have that respect for myself? Is that okay with everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
It's kind of a long question. So I would like for you to explain what unincorporated Jeffco allows for cannabis establishment. Specifically, I would like it explained how the marijuana establishment prohibition ordinances as outlined in Part B of the Jeffco ordinance placed by the county commissioners, which prohibit the operation of cultivation, manufacturing, and retail stores of marijuana, and how they prevent these in unincorporated areas only. So I want to know, how does incorporation affect future plans? Because unincorporation right now is affecting that business, and when we incorporate, there will be changes. So I would like for that to be explained. If anyone's interested in hearing more about that, I've got the link to online. And I just wanted to say any type of silence or I don't know answers that we'll be able to also interpret that also.
Sure, thanks for your question. I can only do my best in answering some of that from what I know in my other realm of profession. I do know that the state constitution gives people in Colorado the rights to certain cannabis activities and possession amounts. But in the midst of all that, there's also rules and regulations that give local municipalities and other communities and counties the ability to be to regulate, to do extra regulation on top of what the state already does through their state departments. So I guess your question you're asking is, how would creating a municipality affect potential businesses here in the canyon and zoning regulations? And the only answer I have for that is if we did a town charter, if we were governed by a town charter, we could create our own zoning and business regulations, which would be done with the city council and potentially by a vote, depending on how that charter was written. That is completely down the road. That's a whole nother different discussion, but it could be where things were permitted or allowed or disallowed or had to be done under certain conditions, because anyone who's a municipality or a county already has statutory authority to be more restrictive when it comes to any marijuana businesses in the state. So I hope that answers. I'm not familiar with Jeffco's.
So Jeffco's county commissioner states that unincorporated Jeffco cannot have any of those businesses.
I can tell you why they did that.
Incorporating changes the rules.
Yeah.
You know, they did that because people grow in homes, residential areas.
That's a
And the
constitutional right.
fire hazard is so great, and they don't want those type of businesses growing with the fire hazard so great up in unincorporated areas, all throughout the front ranges like that, not just Yepco.
This is the last thing that I'll say about it, is I would just ask you to consider, when we're making changes, who's like, why we're proposing changes and what the underlying issue is.
Well, for the place that's built up there, because it's built as a residential wood structured area.
I'm talking about Jeffco, that's Boulder.
Yeah.
It was the, well, it was the way I
Well,
told you. there was-
hold on. I don't want to be rude to this nice lady. I've had her hand up for a minute. Was your question, I know, ma'am, was your question done?
I think
Or do you
so.
have
I
one?
mean, in full transparency and at the risk of, I would like to stay for the whole meeting. I really am trying to be respectful.
No worries.
I would just like to know what connection there is to that in this room.
What connection to what?
Just like
Make it more
if there are
specific.
any future plans as far as incorporating our town. And if there are any related ideas with business owners who are in that portion of Jeffco.
I haven't heard or ever had any conversations to that at all. This is the
I'll
first
defer to
time I've
the young lady.
So no, there has been no discussion.
Is there anyone leading this discussion or participating in this discussion who's done that in the past or is actively doing it?
Not that I'm aware of. I only know that El Dorado Lodge situation or El
So
Dorado.
you've never been involved with 420 highways
Yes, that used to be my dispensary.
or Grow Hemp Colorado?
That's my current business, one of them. What does
I
that-
don't care
What
about
does
all
that
that.
have to do though
That's-
with the business? I grow my own marijuana as well because
I don't have anything against that, but
My restaurant has hemp tables and hemp walls. That's federally legal.
I just think
So,
this community has a
I'm
right
not-
to know what's really going on, perhaps,
Do you
maybe
think
not
that-
just allegedly, I'm
Yes,
just
okay.
putting it out there.
I
as a
appreciate that. I'm
possible-
happy to answer any questions. I'm not hiding anything. And so, yes, ma'am, I'm so sorry.
Okay, so my question probably has a few parts.
Yes, ma'am.
You've mentioned I several times.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there more people already involved in this? I don't know if discussion or movement. Are there more people?
I've had discussions just throughout randomly, but there's no one else involved. It would be, the committee that ultimately would have like the real discussions.
Has
So,
the committee been formed?
no, ma'am.
How would a committee be formed?
Well, I was gonna suggest depending on how this meeting went at the end, if anybody did have interest in participating on the committee, to email, maybe send in an email, and then we could go from there, because obviously the more hands participating makes the data collection go quicker and the summary to the community go faster. So more involvement would be better. So,
And I guess my last part
Yes.
is why? Why now? Why, most people that moved up here to get away from town. And this isn't an attack on you, but there are a lot of people in here who have been in the canyon for a good period of time. You're relatively new, which can be good and bad. You don't have the history that a lot of people do, but you can also bring new ideas. But why? Why change the entire fabric of the community and what most people have up here?
But they look for what they move up here for.
so, can I just answer that really quick?
Sure.
So I'm not trying to change anything. In fact, I haven't asked anything from anybody except for to come with an open mind to a meeting. That's all I've asked. I have, to answer your question, why now, everyone would like to know, because there's a lot of mystery. Maybe some of that's my fault. But like I said, when I started going through the past documents, researching what the last committee did in 1998, I found myself on a journey. Everyone's gonna be very disappointed in this answer, okay? I'm just gonna tell you right now, because it's not an exciting thing.
But
Hold
why
on, can I-
did you
let me
start
just-
going through those documents? What was the impetus?
I
for
saw,
this whole-
there's two reasons. I saw, well, first of all, I live downtown and it's beautiful and I'm really thankful to be there. So I get to be probably more involved with downtown than most people because I literally live there and I see everything going on. So I kind of sometimes sit out there and envision different things, just thoughts going through my head, but super grateful for how it already is. So I have no intention of like being mayor or governor or any of those things. I never even thought I would be looking into this. I had no idea what it looked like to incorporate a town. It was never even a thought in my mind. But then I do remember seeing a post on Facebook somewhere talking about an effort that had been done back in the day. I could never find that post again. And I was curious, why didn't it happen? So I asked someone here at the CCIA hall and I said, hey, do you know about this? They said, oh yeah, the documents are in the basement. Do you want to borrow them? And I said, yes, can I please? Not that I already have enough stuff to do. So as soon as I got my hands on it, I spent a few months going through it, really diving into it, and I became fascinated. It was a journey I went on from the past. I learned a lot about the community and it was exciting and amazing for me. So I thought it would be fun and a great community activity or a way for us to come together to have new discussions, updating and restarting a committee. Did I think guaranteed we'd have a town? Did I think there would be this controversy? No. I just know that it could be, whether this works or not, even if we made the effort and it doesn't happen because property taxes is concluded is going to go up, at least we made that effort and took the time to be together to look and spend on researching it like the past did. So if 10 years from now, another generation wants to say, hey, things in the world is wild, let's do something different to protect our area. What has been done in the past, they can go back and look at 1998, they can go back and look at 2024, and what efforts were, made then for our community. So I'm sorry to disappoint. I just thought this would be a fun way to get involved together, have discussions. And, if there's a potential that we could protect our amazing community, because I love it here where I live, and I would never cause any harm, then I think it's a worthwhile investment, at least on my time, because my time is a very valuable, precious commodity. So that's why now, and that's why, I'm spending my time talking to you tonight. Yes, sir.
You brought up a piece of paper from 20 years ago,
Yes, sir.
and it failed then.
Yes, sir.
And ultimately, they were afraid of being annexed by our VAP.
That's true.
I don't think that's a major concern to the majority of us in this room.
That's right.
What we see is we have a federal government, we have a state government, and we have counties. Another layer of government does not look really appealing to me. Hurt me personally. I'm not gonna speak for everyone here.
I'll raise my hand on that too.
But I don't need a homeowners association running speed traps in the canyon to generate revenue from me primarily. And this guy over
Hey, come on, man, leave me alone.
What you will do is you will generate with speed trap cameras 90% from those of us trying to get home. And the rest will avoid coming up the canyon, just like they avoid going to Morrison now. And if you want to hear about a scourge, start talking about the speed traps that Morrison has on 285 and C470, and they are loathed for it. And you will make the canyon loathed. And you talked about creating new jobs. Other than in the cannabis industry, what else could we bring up here as a new source of employment other than, oh, well, we're going to create all these government jobs? Well, I'm here to tell you, the government doesn't create money. The feds print it, but that doesn't really create it.
Amen, brother. Amen.
So,
I appreciate all your points,
so
and
your city, your new
it's not
city
mine.
layer
It's
of,
not mine.
well, you're suggesting it. And
No,
we're
no,
here,
I'm only suggesting that we look into if it's a.
I would say it's been looked
idea
into.
Now versus back then.
I would say it's been looked into, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a good place for this to go to rest. I'm here today because I fear closed door committees who come up and say, we've done all this research and we believe this is best
I
for
respect what
you.
you're saying, but that, honestly, hold on, that's unnecessary, like, you don't need to go to that dark space.
He's
because-
true, he's
hold on.
speaking the truth.
But that, there's,
speaking the truth.
can I finish though, please? Would you respectfully allow me to address it? So I'm just saying is that there's no secret meetings happening. There's no intention or agenda. I haven't been secret about anything. I put as much as I can out. I could have probably went about this, but that's not my intention. I want it to be a community discussion. And that's it.
Appreciate.
You know, there's a lot of details that I cannot give you specifics on because I don't know them. And that would be part of the goal as fact finders, their task as a committee, and then come back and summarize and then do presentation. This is a huge community effort. That's why I was like, oh, so excited. Call me geeky, call me weird.
Yeah.
But I was just excited that we could all get together and do something fun and then come to a conclusion. And if it worked, it didn't. And if it did, it did. But I'm not predicting the future. I'm not trying to force anything down anyone's throat. And I haven't asked for anything from anybody.
Can I just say,
This gentleman needs to talk and that.
can I just say, just as like the silent facilitator over here, Veronica had an idea. That was it. All things start with an idea. She's bringing it to the community to see if there's interest. If there were interest, a group would do a study. If that study deemed this was feasible, committees would then go into the weeds where we're all going now with those details. She was just giving y'all an idea. So just bring your questions with that in mind, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Should I pick people? Because I can't keep anyone straight. I'm so sorry. You go ahead because I know your hand's been up. I apologize.
So my name is Paula and thank you for organizing this and thank you for bringing the information. I do think it's interesting to see what was found because I think we can always learn from all past research and everything to make good decisions moving forward.
Yes.
I think what might help, the one thing in the survey that struck out to me when you showed the questions asked was there was a question about, do people have an appetite for starting a town? And I think here what you're probably getting from people is they feel caught off guard because we jumped from that step to let's research the town. So just a suggestion might be, I do think this community has not had a survey in a while, that we create a survey
Yeah.
to find out what is the interest, but also just what are the top 3 things to be addressed. And the reason I say that is because maybe there's another way to address them. If it's helping Airbnb businesses, maybe there's a way we can say, we need to bring in a representation from each one of the counties, which one of my neighbors actually recommended, Doreen Pichetti, and bring them in to here are some of the problems and reasons why we're having these discussions. So I feel like we just need to maybe just pause it for a minute, do the survey, get the input to redirect and say, what are the things we want to do as a community to address, then split them up, and then go after the committees to get the information and bring that back.
I love it. I mean, there is nothing set in stone with me. I don't have a huge firm A, B, C, and D. You know, this is why I wanted us to kind of get together, not expecting what has happened and, you know, the anger that has been created from all this and misinformation, but I think that's great. And that's what I'm looking for. I don't know where to go with this. I just thought it would be fun and a good idea. And we're smart people and there's new data and there's more financial resources. And if we can benefit from that, even whether or not you justify speeding, which is still illegal, no matter whether you're in the canyon or not, that's on you. I'm guilty of speeding as well. But this also is a major highway that could financially benefit our town and ultimately our community. It's just a fact, okay? Whether you like it or not. Do I know all the details of where things would go with the speeding thing? In our own town charter, we could actually write in there, if you're a resident and you can prove it, within our Cold Creek Canyon town boundary line, you get 4 passes a year instead of $40, you get $5. That's your fault if you're speeding in the speed zones, not mine if that does ever come to be. So that's just not a valid argument to me.
You know,
Thank you.
with the culprit.
can I give her,
Yeah,
thank you.
Tim's talk.
Oh, I'm
With,
sorry.
with, with,
I had my.
Okay, go ahead.
you know, we've got a Cold Creek Canyon Improvement Association right here, right now.
Yes, sir. They let me.
What I would think would be good for everybody in this canyon, and me included, is to enhance that committee. Let's go to the state. Let's go to our county, fix these frickin' roads. We are in dire straits. I don't know, I'm afraid sometimes to drive a certain road, certain speeds. I'm afraid I'm gonna break an axle on my vehicle. What is the deal with that? The Gross Dam project is gonna just intensify next year. It's gonna start hauling lumber out of that area. What's that gonna do to 72 in traffic? Plus the fact you've got the bicycle crowd, which I don't care what you wanna do on a two-wheeler.
They don't belong on roads.
Well, thank you. It's a dangerous situation. If we want to improve this canyon, we've got an improvement association right here. Let's increase that. Let's go to the county with our concerns and say, hey, get off your dead bike and help us out here.
I totally agree with you. So one of the ways that can happen is by having these meetings
Yeah,
here at the
I-
hall where it actually helps.
Well, we don't
Hold
need
on,
it.
Can I just answer a little bit to your, so when we rent the hall, we
Yeah.
pay money to rent this hall for the meetings, even if it's at a discounted rate. And then we also can help maybe get some more memberships, because I can tell you right now, all the new people moving into the canyon, they don't even know this place exists.
Well,
But
let's,
if we can
why
increase
don't we do a
memberships-
PR thing to help?
I
them out?
love it.
Let's get some people in. We don't need a township
Well,
as per
that's
se.
a separate,
Incorporated.
two separate.
We've got the community
That's
right
what
here.
it takes
We
to
all try and
improve.
help each other out when we can. Let's do that first.
Wonderful suggestion. Love it.
You just said that was separate. He just said we don't need a town here. You just said that was separate.
He just said building up CIA as
No,
a
no, no,
membership,
no,
as
but
as on the
you said
committee
You don't need
is.
a town here, but you said that's
Right.
separate.
the town-
That's exactly what it takes to incorporate. You have to create infrastructure. For one, it's physically impossible unless you're gonna take the land the schools on to build infrastructure out here. You're gonna blast the side of the mountains off, everything's too steep around here.
I'm not going to do anything, sir.
Okay, well, who's in favor of the incorporation?
Excuse me, we're not taking a vote on anything,
We
sir.
are.
No.
Who's in favor of not
Excuse me,
incorporating?
sir, please don't do that.
Okay,
That's
well,
actually really
this is an
rude.
open discussion,
We're not-
freedom
we're
of speech.
not having
I got one
that.
more thing to say.
This is not
No
your
town,
tonight.
I got one more thing to say. No town, because for one, we need to keep the hunting going, especially for the mountain lions. If you people let your friends, co-workers, and the other left, be nice, Dave, the other people down there vote to ban mountain lion hunting, Your dogs, they already get killed, but your kids are gonna get damn killed too. A mountain lion eats 1 deer a week. A female kills 3 deers a week when her cubs are up to 6 months old. If
So
you
just gonna
kill them,
pause
if
this
you start
conversation
banning.
for the committees later.
Well, I know, but we've gone off other topics. We're gonna make sure. This is very important. It's a very important vote. Keep mountain lion running over. Your kids are gonna get eaten. I'm going home, reach the state.
One love.
And damn the first damn project too.
Okay, yeah. Yes, ma'am. I'm very orange.
My name's Kathy.
There was a wolf in there. The wolf said they got eaten by mountain lion.
Excuse me, can we respect someone else asking a question? Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful night.
So my name's Kathy, and I hear you that you've just come to see who else is interested that can help you do the research. You think it's a great idea. Because it's so new to all of us and dear to our hearts, we're feeling a little defensive.
Yes.
Like you are wanting to do something. So I just want to explain, maybe no intention is intended, but we are a little suspicious.
Obviously.
Because
That's clear.
because you're new,
Anonymous, right?
you're new, you've fed us, that's been very nice.
Okay. Thank you.
Have you ever been involved in mountain town boards?
So I've been part of multiple boards and committees on a state level.
Mountain
as well.
town
I'm-
boards,
I'm-
mayors.
I'm also a
council people.
Colorado native, so my whole life is Colorado and mountains most of my life.
Can you answer the question?
Have you
So
been
I-
on any boards? Yeah, the
So I
experience.
don't, I've
Okay,
never,
okay, so.
I have participated in aspects on mountain communities regarding medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, and industrial hemp. Rules and regulations surrounding those things, yes.
For the most part, Coal Creek Canyon is an incredible community.
Yes.
That gets along very well.
Everyone's been overall great to us, except for the last 24 hours.
So if
Majority.
if you don't comment, I can finish.
Yes,
my
ma'am, I'm so
piece
sorry,
here.
my bad.
Okay.
Would it be possible to get down to the main question of the meeting? Is anyone interested in forming committees to gather data to see if this is a feasible option? Instead of debating the pros and cons of incorporating a town, let's come up with some actual data.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just gonna let this nice lady finish her comment question, and then I'm gonna have you repeat that, okay? Could you just give us a few more minutes?
No problem.
Thank you.
So there's, I think sometimes it just causes greater conflict. Okay, we don't have that structure. Getting to that structure would create a lot of conflict. I think because you're not experienced with running a town, there might be quite a bit of naivety around it. It's quite intense. I've had the privilege of being a mayor of a small mountain town, being the administration of it, the town clerk, running elections, all of that. I suspect it's far more involved than you're giving it credit for, and the expenses of the insurance that we would have to have for liability. So I think too, that's fun. Veronica's has a fun idea. But getting on board with that fun idea doesn't seem like fun to me.
Okay, and I respect that. Thank you so much for your comment. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I'm not sure who actually had that question, but would you be so kind to say that again so everyone could hear?
Exactly. I understand that people are very passionate about the pros and cons of this proposition of incorporation. I really think one of the most important aspects of this meeting that's been called is to see, is anyone interested in forming committees to gather the data to present? So all of these questions of why, how, when, if can be answered. You know, instead of arguing, somebody step up to gather data.
Agreed. So and this is my thought. If you have any extra input, I would love to hear it. I was just thinking at the end of the meeting, well, hopefully we ended and concluded positively and left on a positive note, and then just offer whoever was interested to send an email in, and then we could all readdress it perhaps, unless you have a better suggestion, because I'm all open to hearing it, and I think everyone else is too.
No, offers, you know, however they want to offer is fine. I see a lot of argumenting going on, pros and cons, and that's getting nowhere to addressing the issue. Is anybody willing to gather data
I would do a survey.
and a comment?
Because
Thank you so much.
2,500 people and this is 40, so.
Yeah. You need to do a survey of all
Yeah.
counties.
Veronica, sorry, Rachel here again.
I agree. No. Yes, ma'am.
I just would suggest that doing something in tandem with CCCIA, because they are a 501c3 with bylaws that would keep a subcommittee note, you'd have to run within the guidelines of note taking and attendance and all of that. My just suggestion, I think, that would ease concerns with a committee formation request like this, if it sat under that organization, then there would just be at least some guidelines around it. It just would be just a suggestion on that.
Thank you for the suggestion. Okay, I know we're running over our time.
Yeah, second that for sure.
Awesome. And I just want to be respectful of the time I've been allowed here at the hall because we've already exceeded it. And I appreciate everyone's time. So maybe we can end here, but open to suggestions. Maybe we end tonight as more calm and peaceful than the day started.
We just have one
And
question.
Can
don't know
I,
if she
but
can answer.
she,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. And so maybe we conclude tonight as, more calmer than today started, and then go home and kind of ponder it. And if anyone's interested, over the next few weeks, submit an email to a specific address saying I'm interested, want to attend the next meeting. And then we have a follow-up meeting with more than a week notice, I promise. And then kind of get down to details on how do we do a survey? Where do we actually get the addresses from? How much is it going to cost? Because if we had to figure out a boundary to find those addresses to mail something, is it electronic? It gives us time to talk to the CCIA committee to see if they would be willing to do anything as well. So that's my suggestion of where we could possibly leave it tonight. So there's no solid, yes, the committee's happening, or no solid no, but to be continued perhaps. Go ahead.
So to end it, hopefully on a good note, I just want to tell you, I appreciate the moderating that was done and how you prepared and carried yourself very well tonight. I just have one question.
Sure.
And I wanted to give you the opportunity to respond. So I've done some research that shows that you're not legally able to vote in this canyon in any of the 3 counties, and that you're not a legal resident. Could you clear that up for us so that we know who you are as a community organizer? And I was just thinking it might be pertinent regarding getting your idea on the ballot and that.
I'm not going to discuss ballots or anything, but I will address this because this is eventually going to come out anyway, and we'll start floating around. So if you Google my name, the first thing you're going to see is my mugshot. It's a very interesting story, but I am a marijuana felon. I have a conviction for marijuana, something I'm not embarrassed of. In fact, I find it a badge of honor because I was on the front floor of legalization in the States. So when you say I can't vote because I'm a felon, because I know that's what you're leading that to.
No, us being a resident, we don't care about all that other stuff.
Well, I am a resident in,
An address?
my address is 30549 Colorado Highway 72, because that's where we live.
The business address?
That's correct. We live at that location.
Full time?
Yes, ma'am.
And
We
it's on
moved
your
up-
driver's license?
We moved up here to live here, not to run a business here. That restaurant accidentally happened and was supposed to be a hobby business, which it's not, because running a restaurant is not a hobby, okay?
Hard work.
Huh. But I'm in too deep to stop now, so, but that's our real income comes from our own separate businesses, but the restaurant was never a plan. We bought that property to live in, knowing it was gonna be a massive undertaking because it was empty for 15 years.
Thank you
That's
so
the
much.
truth.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everybody. All
Also,
right.
just from the board of CCCIA, we only have like just over 200 members.
Oh, okay.
And that's not nearly as many as live in the canyon. So if you're not a member, join the CCCIA, coldcreekcanyon.org, and then we can keep on amplifying voices.
So just one last thing, is it okay if I post post up about an email that could be sent if anyone's interested on a follow-up meeting of next steps? That's where we're leaving it tonight. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it, everybody.
Hey, you guys, I just wanted to let you know, sorry we didn't get to your questions, but I'll pass everything from the chat over to Veronica. And then this recording will also be made available. So thank you for attending and we'll see you all later.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
This dog may belong to a Kenyan family by the name of Johnson, Chris and Simone Johnson.
Apparently they live right near the hall. Is that right?
Uh,
You know them?
They're just up here on Cold Creek, Heights Road. or
Okay,
Gross Dam Road.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So-
Susie said she knows who it is, so I'm
Good.
trying to get hold of her. Yeah.
Thanks for living with me.